Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com, and welcome to another episode of our weekly Q&A. So big hello and welcome to all of you. And yes, it's another Sunday, so big hello. Also big hello to any fathers watching. Happy Father's Day. So hopefully you can watch it. So there might be a few people less maybe today because we're doing stuff with their dads and etc. and with their kids. But we got lots and lots of questions and stuff to go through today. Lots of them have been sent in advance by our patrons and our YouTube channel members. So a big thank you to everyone sending in your support. You can also become a member from as little as $2 a month, and you can join in on the questions. So anyone in the live chat can do that as well. Also, if you do also feel the need to and feel like I'm helping out, you can also use the super chat function as well to send in support for the channel. It really makes a massive difference. If you're unaware, there's been some major changes and stuff with how like Google's working and stuff. So any additional help you can throw in would be very, very, very welcome. So assuming you can all hear me, so that's pretty cool. So I've put out a question today. So this is kind of connected with one of the questions that come in early today was, how can Disney Plus improve its viewership? So I can only give you 4 options. So I could have given you probably 10 times that, but fully merged with Hulu, more originals, a free fast tier, license more content. Baba Trolling also said having sports in there as well would be a big thing as well. But let's jump into the questions and let's start off. So let's just kick in. So Leon says, "What would happen? Would you happen to know when Disney Plus will set up a live TV streaming service on Disney Plus? Or will they make it another pay-to-tier service?" So I don't think there's been any word about them adding a live TV version. There has been some talk that's been floating around about them adding genre channels, kind of like just rotating channels. I think there's a big difference between it being a live version of like ABC and a live version of the Disney Channel and just rotating channels as content. You know, like if they had like a Marvel channel and a Star Wars channel and a Modern Family channel and a Simpsons channel, etc. So there's a little bit of a difference to that. I'm not expecting them to add anything like live TV channels because that would then cut into cable deals. It would also cut in on I just don't think they're kind of in that zone of wanting to do that just yet. It might be different when they've made some deals in the US, but also a genre channel would allow them much more flexibility to add in their own internal ads within Disney Plus. Also, it would be probably much easier to implement internationally and globally rather than just a live stream of ABC. I think they should do. I think an ABC News live stream would be a great thing for them to do. But yeah, I think that's definitely something. But there's been no word on it as whether or not they ever merge Hulu Live TV in with Disney Plus. I can't see it ever happening. To me, I view these like live TV bundle things like Fubo and Venue Sports and Hulu Live TV. They're all just a crutch for cable companies and cable customers while they kind of wean themselves off of these platforms. I don't see Hulu Live TV being around in 5 years. I'd be surprised if it's around in 3 years. I just feel like that whole market is shrinking, and YouTube TV is just stomping ahead and picking up most of that business. So Mammoth says, why are the Nielsen charts in relation to content available on Hulu do not mention contributions from Hulu on Disney Plus in the SVOD provider column? So this is something I have noticed, and they definitely don't put it in there. I think the problem is Hulu on Disney Plus is still technically Hulu, so therefore it gets classed. I don't think they've gone down that line yet. And also, and this is something I would very much be aware of, is Disney are they're still very much, I think, while this issue going on with Comcast, they're not really kind of pushing Hulu on Disney Plus enough yet. It still feels very early, still feels like they're not doing a huge amount on that at the minute. There's not been, the promotions and stuff, the advertising, the press releases, no mention. There's never any mention of Hulu on Disney Plus or Disney Plus in any of their advertisements or stuff about anything that they're putting out. They're still very kind of separate. And I'm wondering if, again, that's part of the same problem. They're not like connecting the two. So we've got 3 questions here from Aaliyah, which are all interconnected with Doctor Who. So we'll do all of these together. So Aaliyah says, no sign of Doctor Who on Nielsen's chart last week or this week. On the overall or original charts, do you think that it is, if it doesn't or it will not go beyond season 15 on Disney Plus? Yeah, unfortunately, I am very much in the mindset right now that I am not expecting Doctor Who to go beyond the second season on Disney. I think they are going to bail. They might not do it just yet. They've got the second season already filmed, and they've already paid for it. So I would imagine that that's still going to carry on as go. But Disney have been very quiet about the ratings for Doctor Who. It's in the low end of the trending chart in the US on Disney Plus. It's never made the Nielsen chart, and to me, this is a big show that's not being promoted by Disney. I think they did like a week at the beginning. There's nothing. I've not really seen anything on social media. They don't really put anything out on their YouTube channel. It feels a bit like they've gone, well, yeah, we're doing the bare minimum that we need to, but they did something at like, I think the week it came out, they did a premiere in LA. They did something at Disneyland California Adventure, and they put a TARDIS in Disney downtown Disney, and that was it. And I'm not convinced that they've really put a lot of effort in. I don't think the viewership is hitting. Just do some other questions on this one. Ali also says, if Disney Plus does cancel Doctor Who due to low viewership, then it's not up to Disney for Doctor Who to survive to continue. Producers will have to figure out any theory of their options. And you also want to say, only way I can see Disney keeping or continuing Doctor Who, even with the low viewership, is if the BBC sweetens its deal for Bluey for the benefit in exchange for saving Doctor Who from ending. That is a good point. That could be part of a bigger deal to kind of keep them involved. Ultimately, the future of Doctor Who is in the BBC's hands. It is a BBC show. It is there's something that's been around for 60 years and has been cancelled in the past. This is a show that has come back on numerous occasions. This is a long-running show. This is not a franchise that's just going to flip away after one bad viewing experience. That's not going to happen. So if the Disney decided not to continue on with it, I think BBC would continue, but they're going to probably go out there again and maybe try and find another global partner, or basically just sell it off as it is. Either that, or the budgets are going to be drastically reduced. And I do feel like there's a state of, I think the next, if they bring in a new doctor or they bring in new writers and all the rest of it, maybe they need to start looking at it and going, what are we trying to make here? What are we trying to do? Because the show isn't connecting with younger audiences. It's alienating older viewers. I don't think Doctor Who connects in the same way internationally as it does here in the UK. I was talking this with my wife today about I think the quirkiness, that's the way that Doctor Who is like quintessentially British. It's that Saturday evening TV. It's something that I don't think is the same in like how it works in the US. I'm just not sure it works in the same way as it does. The comedy of like the tongue-in-cheekness of it, the campness, because Doctor Who's had that for a long time. There's just an element of Doctor Who which I just don't know if it clicks the same way as it does. I mean, I've been a fan of Doctor Who as far back as I can ever remember. I've seen probably every Doctor along the way. I'm enjoying this new series, but yeah, it's a very weird little thing that they're doing right now. I think they've pushed it. I think in terms of alienating some audiences and stuff, I think they've pushed it in some ways that has done that, and it's pushed older people away and people that don't want to watch it. I think Ncuti Gatwa is fantastic. I really liking his style and his personality, and I love that whole and him just being like full on flamboyant, because he's always been a bit crazy and a bit out there. So I like Ncuti. I'd love for him to continue. I've really enjoyed watching the season. I've connected much more with him than I did with Capaldi and with Whittaker. I've been really enjoying Ncuti as it. I'm not so keen on Ruby. she's a bit plain, and I don't like this whole constant thing that she's important and everything's revolving around her. It's like we did this with Amy Pond, we did it with Rose, we did it with Clara. Can she not just be someone that just goes along for the ride and just like doesn't have to be the center of the universe? She's just just a girl that they picked up and she's going on an adventure. Like, do we need to just incorporate everything that all revolves around her, that she's special? And I'm like, it's about just, I don't know, I'm just not really feeling it with her. Yeah, so that I do think BBC probably will continue it in some way, but there will be a budget cut. As Babak says here, I could also see them reducing the budget. I think that's the thing. I think there's also, and this is the other big thing for me with Doctor Who, is I think there's a lot of people that are maybe new to the show or have only just got into it recently or whatever, that are trying to compare it to Marvel, Star Wars, House of the Dragon, The Boys, Lord of the Rings, and it's like this is a different kind of show. It is, it always has been this thing with Doctor Who about it being wobbly doors and wobbly walls and and it being a bit cheap and a bit, and it's always been a bit tongue, and I don't think it translates the same way as it does globally. But yeah, I don't know. Just like the interest in the show, it does seem that, and the viewership in the UK does seem to be dropping, but we're not getting the 7-day results. I need to see what that is right now. But yeah. Babak also says, I am surprised that Hulu hasn't sold Hulu Live, and Hulu does have a ABC News channels if you don't have Hulu Live. Yeah, I think they do add that one in there. I think until Comcast is gone, they can't do anything with it. I think that's probably the big problem for that. Right. So yeah, if you've got any ideas of like what you think might happen with Doctor Who, let me know. You can send in a super chat. You can become a member and let us know if you're watching. And obviously everyone can join in on the questions. Let's continue going along. Mamo says, do you think that the cost-cutting measures and reduction of content harmed the reputation and viewership of Disney Plus? And if yes, what can Disney do to regain it? So this was in relation to the main question of the day. Fortunately, I missed it when I would have put it normally at the top. And this is where you can vote. So what do I think they can do to content harm the reputation? So we are in an era right now where peak TV is over. We are not getting the same amount of shows that we used to, and the amount of films and the amount of stuff dropping onto streaming that we used to have. From like 2-3 years ago, that's over with now. We're really seeing them cut back, and it's not just Disney. You're seeing this across the board. I've always said Disney is making enough, but it was spread so thin across all the different channels and networks. They had enough, but we're in this kind of weird thing of like Disney Plus in the US especially is drastically falling behind because it just doesn't have any of that extra stuff that like Hulu could give it. I mean, we're getting like stuff from like Disney Channel and National Geographic, but even they've cut back. So it's a bit tricky with how that's all working. In terms of like how they've harmed their reputation, I think there's no point in sugarcoating it. The Marvel and the Star Wars shows have caused problems. You only have to look at the online at the Acolyte right now. There is a lot of divisiveness around this series for a number of different reasons. Now, some of it is, some of people will keep pointing back to The Last Jedi and how Disney Star Wars, and, there's a whole other problem with this. And I always think, like, just saying Disney Star Wars is not very good. It's like, they've done some good stuff. We liked Rogue One. The internet liked Andor. I thought Force Awakens was very good. There's a lot of stuff that they've put out which has been really good. Mandalorian was loved when it came out. So was season 2. Season 3 was a little bit hit and miss. They have had some dodgy ones, and some ones that maybe weren't quite as good as they should have been. Same thing with Marvel. We had all the hassle and like weirdness over She-Hulk and Miss Marvel and Secret Invasion, and I think all of that quality has diminished what these shows are, and therefore we're expecting less of them. you know, I mean, it is weird. You look at the box office numbers that are predicted for Deadpool and Wolverine, and it shows that maybe cutting back is better. Maybe less is more. And I think we're definitely seeing that. And I do think that less, but also the shows that are coming out are going to have to be better. And this is going to take years to sort out. This is going to take years. I mean, Agatha could be great. We don't know. But Acolyte just has not clicked the way that it's just not clicking with people. There's so much like weird stuff going on with how people are everything is just wrong with the show in some people's eyes. I'm enjoying it. I've enjoyed the first 4 episodes. There are problems with it. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And it is that weird thing with the Acolyte where you kind of feel like you can. There's this like weird thing of like, you know, if anyone criticizes it, people feel like they can't criticize it. There's some problems with the show. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's all over the place. And I do think that's hurt it. So I think it's what Disney Plus has to do is they have to put out better content. They have to put better stuff out. And also, I do think they have got to avoid being divisive in terms of putting out things that are going to piss people off. You don't want to have a business where you've pissed off half your audience. That's not a good business plan. You don't want to be pissing. I mean, you're always not everyone's going to like everything. That's just normal. You know, that's pretty normal. The Acolyte, anything that comes out, someone is not going to like something. Someone's going to like something. That's just normal. But I think they have got to pull back, and they are doing it. They want to be, Bob Iger has talked about it, but it's going to take time. So I think that's going to have to do with it. And I do think, and this is the honest truth, I think Disney Plus has to step it up. They've been on, they exploded. They exploded out. They grew. They were throwing spaghetti at the wall to try and make as many originals as they possibly could. They were throwing loads of stuff at it, and they spent billions on content. A lot of it was unwatched, so they deleted it and got a tax rebate. And that pissed people off, which, unsurprisingly, all these cancellations and stuff, people are wary of starting new shows and so on. I do think that when the Hulu side comes in fully into Disney Plus in the US, that will definitely fill the void of make Disney Plus feel much more valuable. Here in the UK, we have had that for years. So this week, when I'm watching Clipped on Tuesday, I had Grey's Anatomy on Thursday, I had Station 19 on Thursday, we had Tracker on Wednesday, we had there were the bits and pieces. There was Criminal Minds on Friday. We had other bits dropping throughout the week. There's enough content dropping weekly, and then you had the Acolyte and all that kind of stuff. So there's enough. So you've got a quantity of good shows dropping weekly that make it worthwhile having. So I do think that's good. But in the US, you're not really at that point yet. The Hulu side is giving it, but it's still separated. I think the idea of adding more originals, I do think we need to get back to having some. I think, again, when they can line up the Hulu side better with Disney Plus, then if you've got 1 or 2 originals dropping weekly, that's when they can kind of pick up the steam. So like now, so for example, we've got Clips dropping on Tuesdays, and then if you've got Acolyte, at the minute, you've got Acolyte and Clips dropping every week. But I think those 2 shows are very different, very vastly very different, but they also are high quality, expensive shows. I think I wouldn't be at all surprised if Disney Plus ends up adding in a free tier where you can watch a selected number of channels on a happening, so they can maybe the speed that like Tubi is jumping up and other free streaming services. Disney has to be aware of it. They don't want to devalue Disney Plus, or I think the price point for Amit is probably a good point in terms of how they're doing it, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if they either make it cheaper for the ad tier, but they add more ads in. And licensing maybe content. Maybe that's one way of doing it. All right, let's see what we've got in the live chat. Let's see what we've got. So Sue says, when do you think the full merger will happen? I think it's probably going to be next year. I don't think it's going to happen this year. Matt would like to see some more hubs added to Disney Plus. Yeah, I think that. I think not so much hub. I think we're obviously going to get that ESPN hub, but in that Hulu/Star Hub, we need to be able to go in there and kind of branch out a bit more and give us a little bit more options when we're in there a little bit. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy. Barbatronic says, why do you think that Disney hasn't made a lot of Disney Junior shows, like shows only for Disney Plus? The simple truth is, with like these Disney Junior shows, is they are making them. They go to Disney Plus and they go to Disney Junior, and some of them even also go to YouTube. They just go to everywhere. There is no, it is just an output now. The concept of just putting it out on Disney Plus doesn't work. Well, it does work, but they need to fill the linear channels as well. So why not put it on both? It's almost along the lines of, it's a Disney show, it's a Disney show, it'll be on both. And that's, to be honest, the way they should have always, like, I think, looked at it more, was treat them as equals rather than one above the other. Ricardo says, what could be the reason the Disney Plus logo is now green, but the interface still looks blue? Well, I think the main reason why the interface hasn't changed very much is that we've not really seen any major updates. We've seen a few tweaks and stuff. I think they didn't really want to make too much of a change. The reason Hulu or the Disney Plus logo changed to green was because of the addition of Hulu. They are getting ready to merge in. This is all a subconscious thing of getting you used to green and Hulu being part of Disney Plus to get Americans ready for the full merger. So when it does happen, everyone will just go, yeah, okay, cool. And also it's claiming green as theirs. You know, we're getting to the thing of Netflix has red, Disney's got green, and then you're going to have like the other ones fighting over blue. Right, let's carry on with the questions, see what we've got here. Elliot says, how long does it usually take for a show on Disney Plus or other streaming services to end up on the Nielsen chart, and where do you access the different charts? Basically, Nielsen.com has it, but it can be a little bit late. But usually it's about a month after they've aired. So like now we've just had the results for like the second week of May. So it's usually about a month delay. It's not great, but it's kind of the only real way we get data from an outside source in the US to compare to other platforms. It's not the be all and end all. That's not the exact numbers, but unfortunately, none of we don't get that. Babak says, currently the only X-Men movie not on Disney Plus is Days of Future Past, which just left Max. When do you think that movie will hit Disney Plus? Maybe next month, maybe. Sometimes when they leave Max, they go to Hulu for a month. Tim says, Limitless with Chris Hemsworth is showing on 9 Network for the first time for Monday. Is just due to Disney licensing out shows. Yeah, so they are licensing this stuff out. Obviously, as well, it makes sense maybe for that show to go out on Australian television network. Chris Hemsworth obviously will bring more in. It probably wasn't a cheap show to make. So therefore, licensing out, especially after it's been out for a year or two, the main buzz from Disney Plus is gone. So why not make a little bit of extra money from it? It kind of makes sense, really. Matt says, when do you think Disney Plus will get a big upgrade? I think we're probably going to see little upgrades happening more regularly. But again, I do wonder if they'll start getting things more prepped for when the Hulu side is ready to roll in. Maybe when the next big one that we know that will be happening will be in December when the ESPN Hub launches in America, but also the ESPN Hub launches in Latin America later this month. So that's going to be the first big test. Kayla says it's been reported that Disney's inked a first look deal with $7 Productions. Should this be a warning sign, since many fans are worried now due to how Black Adam went? And there was also a reference to how he is in WWE at the minute. I think The Rock's power, like show power, has dwindled a bit over the last few years. I think he's been a little bit overexposed. I think he's done too many shows and too many movies back to back. I think Black Adam, what he tried to do with that, trying to kind of take control over it at the end, because there was basically a power vacuum, didn't work out. I mean, I like the Rock movies, but I do think he needs to maybe rein it in a little bit and do a bit less. I think he was becoming a bit of a caricature in the fact that he always plays very similar characters, and I think he's probably just overcooked it a little bit. I think he's not been smelling what he's been cooking, and I think that's the key thing. I think he just has to cool his jets a little bit, maybe a bit overexposed, doing too much stuff. So making, I mean, he doesn't have to make a huge, they can make some stuff that maybe he's involved with, but I think just letting him cool his jets and stuff. There's been also lots of like hit pieces and stuff about how he pees in bottles on sets and how he's always late and stuff. That's not good. Obviously, his reaction when he came back for wrestling, he's going to be hopefully wrestling at next year's main event at Las Vegas for WrestleMania. But yeah, I think he's going to probably turn babyface at some point. But I think the whole thing was him just jumping in with Cody. I don't know if they planned it the way it did, but yeah, it just backfired. I think they didn't. I think they didn't listen properly to the audience, or he was just tone deaf. Elliot says, "What do you think it would take for Disney to get the schedules aligned with other countries? Also, when do you think this might happen?" So we're getting there slowly. I mean, it does feel like we're in a better position than we used to be. I think the key difference is now is with there being less stuff coming out, it does mean now that the dubbing and the subtitles and the global releases should hopefully be easier on them. I think when they were putting out so much stuff, they were clogging up their own internal system. I do think like FX and ABC, etc., especially ABC, they're still very much focused on their own like linear networks first, and like the international audience often feels very much like a second thought. I know obviously adding in like subtitles and dubbing can delay stuff, and that can be a delay. I do personally find it very frustrating that shows that should really be released at the same time, like here in the UK and in Canada and in Australia, etc. Like, why aren't we getting them at the same time? We don't need subtitles or dubbing or anything like that. I know they have to add in, audio descriptions and all the rest of it, but also I think they have to get better planned. I think that's the other thing. They have to start preparing this stuff a little bit more. The FX shows, we just had, for example, like Under the Bridge just dropped here in the UK. We've got coming up this week. We've got We Were the Lucky Ones, and it's like, why are we getting it like months later? All the hype is gone from the internet, and I think that's the trouble with these when they delay them. The buzz over these shows, like a lot of it's gone. All Disney's own hype engine has kind of run out of steam at that point, and then this is getting chucked at us at the end, and it's like, well, all right, and then after time they've been cancelled before we get them. So it's like, yeah, we are the lucky ones, and Under the Bridge came out this week. I want to watch it, but for me, there was no urgency in watching it because it came out like 2 months ago in the United States. Any of the hype, anything that I needed to do in order for me to tell you guys about it and all the rest of it, no point me doing a review on it now because it's 2-3 months out of date for like the majority of my audience. So I think they lose a lot of steam on just by holding stuff out a little bit. Yes, just looking at the poll at the minute, the fully merged with Hulu seems to be the main one. Tim says, has there been any updates on the new Tim Allen new show? Yeah, the changing gears or shifting gears. They have been. I think they've started filming. I think this week they did the pilot. They've been filming the pilot. My man says, what do you think Disney of adding many stand-up comedies onto Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus? Great. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. I do like watching specials. I think they should be doing more of it. I mean, it's a shame that they're not global. A lot of them, I think, are just like temporary. Well, they are making some new ones. Stand-up comedy is cheap. It's easy to make. These comedians want extra, that's part of their thing. I mean, they don't want to do, especially like, if you're a comedian, they don't want to do all of their new material. Obviously now before their tour starts. So at the end of the tour, or they've got new stuff that they want to do, they can get it out there. They used to, obviously, like releasing DVDs used to be a big way of them making money. Every Christmas, I mean, my uncle, he used to have so many tapes of whenever we used to go over there, half of his video collection used to be stand-up comedy. And every Christmas, that's what we used to get. Used to get stand-up comedy, and DVDs and stuff used to take. So, but now we've kind of moved into it. But yeah, get a new stand-up. Probably you want to do it at the end of your tour. Some people are on tour for ages. I mean, if you've gone to see Peter Kay in the UK, I mean, he's been on his new tour is like 3 years long. But it would be good, and also, like I said, cheap, very cheap to make, very cheap. And comedy, I feel like comedy's kind of lost its edge. A lot of is, and I think then you can kind of build on that and stuff. But again, very cheap to make. Basil says, why do you think there's still the upcoming live-action Lilo and Stitch remake straight on Disney Plus instead of going theatrical, considering their latest shift from straight to streaming? So, Lilo and Stitch, officially again, we know nothing. Disney has not said it's going straight to Disney Plus. They have not said if it's going to cinema. They've not dated it for anything. We do not know what's going on with it. I wouldn't be surprised at D23 we find out. The simple thing is, it depends how good it is. If they've watched it and when they get to the point of looking at it and going, is this good enough to put out in cinemas? Is it going to make us a lot of money? Is it going to get bad publicity? Or do we just throw this thing onto Disney Plus? That's going to be the key. How good it is and how much money they think they're going to make on it. Leon says, whatever happened to Touchstone Home Entertainment label? They've had the best movies on the big screen. Can Touchstone Pictures be part of TV streaming? So Disney did essentially stop Touchstone. They stopped using it. They didn't bother using it anymore. They used to release a lot of movies and stuff through that brand, Con Air, The Rock, Face Off, etc. I used to love their stuff. There is 0 point in them bringing it back now. They've got 20th Century Studios. It's exactly the same content. So it makes sense, I think, for them to just have one brand for that kind of thing. Touchstone Pictures, I think they kind of got out of it because they didn't want to do it anymore. But then I think they realized that they need that kind of additional element to kind of fuel the Disney streaming service. Oh, thank you so much, Derek, for your super chat. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. It really does mean a lot. Thank you so much, Derek. So you asked, Sony brought a theater company. How would that work for them since they failed to buy Paramount? It's only a matter of time till Marvel has no use for Spider-Man. Yeah, so Sony this past week has brought Alamo Drafthouse, which is a chain of cinemas in the United States. I'll be honest, I have never been to one. I have heard a lot of good things. They do a lot of it's more of a high end with food. So they brought a lot of cinemas. There was a rule in the US up until a few years ago that meant they couldn't buy them, but they can now. So they're definitely kind of getting in on that theatrical release. Obviously, they do have movie technology as well, so that kind of interconnected. So I think that would work for them if they maybe they're looking at going, maybe we become a distribution point that way. Or we have a way of making money from this stuff, continuing to make good movies, a good selling point to try and get directors in, and they can say, look, we'll put it out in our theaters automatically. It was a good move. I'm kind of surprised that some of the big boys like Disney and maybe Comcast and stuff haven't actually just turned around and gone maybe we should create a one company and then we buy AMC, and then we all cut into it. But I probably wouldn't get through security through their things. But I think as far as you're saying about it's only a matter of time till Marvel has no more use for Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the big superhero. He is the most popular. He's not going to be going anywhere. I think what we're going to end up seeing is Sony are going to realize that they're better, or their bread is better. Their bread is better buttered working with Marvel rather than trying to squeeze it out. We've seen that quality is a problem, that superhero fatigue can impact them. They're not infallible. And I think Marvel Studios wants to work with, I think they're going to come up with a deal that will just see maybe there being a Spider-Man movie every year or every 2 years, but Sony get 50, Disney get 50. They both cut it. So Sony's making a bit of cheese off of it as well. And also hopefully Sony, Marvel distribute it. But yeah, again, thank you so much for that super chat there. It really does mean a lot. Thank you so much. Babak says, I believe at one point Amazon wanted to buy MC, but the deal didn't work. I'm surprised they didn't go for it. I'm also surprised with like cinemas and stuff of like, if you could buy it and then you could put like a store in there and maybe like turn it into a community hub and start thinking of cinemas maybe a little bit differently, as like you've got all that space. So there's a lot of stuff to go in there. So Suna says, will there be an ABC hub next year? I don't think so. I think they're going to keep with the Hulu hub for a while. Bubba Trolling says, do you think Disney should be live streaming Good Morning America on Disney Plus? Yes. I don't get why they haven't got an ABC News one. I just don't get why they don't do that. Babak says, delaying shows overseas negatively impacts viewership. It definitely impacts on international viewership for sure by slowing it down. Piracy, people losing the buzz. Yeah, I think there is an issue with that. Mamad says, what do you think of the opening numbers for Inside Out, and do you think it will surpass $1 billion like the Super Mario Brothers movie? It is done amazingly well. I mean, considering they were tracking it at like 85 million and they were going like, don't get too caught up. And the numbers coming in, I believe it's going to be nearly 300 globally for week one. Obviously, Father's Day will have helped with that one. I know ourselves. My wife said to me last night, she went, can we go see Inside Out tomorrow? And she doesn't like going to cinema. She finds it uncomfortable. Our local cinema is really uncomfortable. So she doesn't like going. So I was a bit like, I'll see Inside Out. I want to see it, but I wasn't like, I have to see it. So I looked today to try and get some tickets for our, like in our nearest city and a premium place. Everything was sold out. I looked in the next city in the opposite direction and it was all sold out. I was like, wow. And then I looked at my local cinema and like nearly every seat was empty because again, it's just not a very good cinema. I was like, I did book my I made sure I've got my ticket for Deadpool, but I don't mind seeing. I'll be seeing that one in my local. And I don't normally buy them that far out, especially my local cinema. Literally, you never need to. I do buy them in advance, but you never need to because there's never enough amount of people go there. Ryan says, "Are we watching Inside Out next month? Don't know which date. Good. I'm grateful you enjoy it. I think there's going to be a lot of people going and seeing it." Mamad also said, with the performance of Inside Out 2, push Disney Animation and Pixar to do more sequels and less original films. They've already decided to do that. They are aware that they have to do a fine line. They can't just rely on just doing sequels and franchises. I think we're going to see a bit of a mix between the two of them. I also think as well is they're going to be just winding them back a little bit so that they're not there's going to be no controversial stuff in these movies. I think they're going to be very safe. I think they're going to really wind them back in so that they get back to just keeping everybody happy, stuff that will do very well on a mass audience and be just, a little bit less controversial, I think is the word. I think is the main thing for these movies and stuff. Barbara Tronic says, do you think that the tax write-offs and cancel moves and shows ruin Warner Brothers Discovery PR? And how long could it take to fix that problem? I'll be honest, I probably think most people can't even remember the shows that have gone. And probably most people aren't going to miss them. There was a little bit of, obviously, a rage at the beginning. But probably in reality, most people have forgotten most of the shows that were on there because they weren't very good to begin with. And I know that people don't like to hear that, but, a lot of this stuff got removed because nobody watched it. And nobody watched, and that's the kind of the thing. Let's see what else we've got here in the live chats. So Sina says, when will they put more hubs? So the ESPN hub will be launching in December. So we know that's coming. Chris says, is Ratatouille 2 coming out this year? I don't think Ratatouille seems to be high up on their list. I don't know if that one naturally. Where can you go with Ratatouille 2? What's he going to do? Have his restaurant closed down and they're going to have to do like the Bear and reopen in another location? I think Ratatouille is kind of it. I don't know if there's anywhere that story can go. I think Incredibles, Toy Story, definitely think obviously Inside Out. There's definitely going to be an Inside Out 3. I can see that happening, or way up. And I think we will see more of that kind of stuff. I wouldn't mind a Luca too, but I don't know if they would do that one. Tim says, is the Santa Claus is getting a third season? Nothing official. Nothing's been mentioned. Maybe they're holding off for next year. Obviously, Tim's doing this new sitcom. So if he's doing that one, he ain't going to be doing it. There's definitely not going to be Santa Clauses this year. But also, they kind of left it wrapped up enough. I don't know. I mean, it did pretty well, but I'm not sure. I don't know if we need it. Kelly says, according to Mint, OTT platforms are steering away from streaming exclusives and moving more towards sharing titles. What are your thoughts? We're definitely, I think, in that zone of some of the streaming services have realized that there's a lot of value in their content. And they used to have licensing as a major part of their inventory. It was a way that they brought in a lot of money, and it was something that had worked for decades. And then they turned the tap off. They stopped it, and all that money dried up, and the streaming services income wasn't up there. So they kind of 2 out of 2 for that. Now I do not think. I think non-exclusive for older shows, it makes sense to try and give a bit of a boost to shows, to do a little bit of a boost. They're licensing stuff out all over the place to different platforms and stuff. I don't see how it's a harm to take if you take a show that came out last year or the year before and you pop it on a linear network or another streaming service for a limited amount of time, it gets a boost in viewership. That viewership probably wouldn't have checked it out if it was on your own platform. So at the minute, it feels a little bit win-win for everybody. But it is going to come at a cost, because what you're going to start seeing is if Paramount and Sony and Warner Brothers all start licensing out more of their content, like Amazon and Netflix and stuff will be less inclined to make their own. I don't think they're ever going to completely stop, but they're making a lot less. And I think if they can start licensing more, they'll be making less as well. Elliot says, for people who don't go to D23 and similar events, what websites can people go for updates about those events? And also, what events are there live streamed on YouTube? So in terms of the live stream, we don't yet know how it's done. So the last few years, they did do a live stream. They had like an area where they were streaming all day, and some of the panels would get live streams. And I suspect most of them, the big ones, probably will be, especially the theme parks and the Hall of Fame thing that they do. The movie one, I wouldn't be surprised if they do live stream it, because I think they want to get more publicity about their films and stuff. But obviously, they want to make it special for those in attendance. As far as where it's going to be, obviously you got the official channels and stuff, that'll be going through there. Obviously for the Disney Plus stuff, I'm going to be working that entire weekend, just working on it, doing articles and videos and things like that. Basically penciled in the whole 3 days of basically said to my family and friends, I'm in my office for 3 days. Don't come anywhere near me. That night of the presentation, I will be staying up and doing all my reporting, because it's 3-4 o'clock in the morning my time, so it's going to be pretty late. But that sounds like it should be an interesting one. I was going to go, decided not to go this year. It was going to cost too much, but also one night for the presentation was just reality of just time zones and stuff. I was going to be in no fit state to do it the way I was going to do it. As far as other sites, obviously you got the official ones, you got the social medias, you got the other major sites that do bits and pieces on Disney, like this Insider, you've got Laughing Place, you've got this info. Depends on what kind of, because most websites generally theme towards certain, some of them are just theme parks and so on. I don't tend to cover, I don't cover the theme park news. I'll still watch the event because I want to see what happens. I think there's going to be a lot of money spent. That says, when do you think the HBO Fox deals will end? I think it's going to be a long time. I think that contract was really screwy on that one. Okay, so if you've got any more last minute questions, feel free to put them in before we head off, because at the minute we've just come to the end of our questions. So Babak says, I think Incredibles 3 needs to happen. I definitely feel Incredibles feels like one that feels naturally to have a sequel. Superhero, there's one that just continues to happen. I do think with superhero fatigue, they have to be careful with how they do it, but I think it's different enough. and I don't want it around the same time as like Fantastic Four. But I definitely think an Incredible sequel is the easiest one for them to go through. I'm just trying to think like what I'm having a bit of a blank on Pixar movies. So let's looking here. I think Finding Nemo, that they've already had a sequel, so they could probably do something like that one. I don't see Onward getting one. I don't think Soul will get one. Coco, no. Turning Red, no. Lightyear, definitely not. Up, no. I don't know. Brave, I don't think it was good enough. Good Dinosaur, definitely not. Wall-E, probably not. Monsters Inc. I wouldn't be. Monsters Inc. I think they'll do that one. I think Monsters Inc. is because they've stopped work on the series. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Monsters Inc. movie instead of a third series of the Monsters at Work. I think that one would there. Cars. I think Cars is definitely going to be one that they'll bring back. Yeah. So I mean, if you look at that just as a whole, I mean, if you're looking at like Cars, Finding Nemo, Incredibles, Toy Story, and if they do one every 2 years, that's 10 years gone already. And then they can just go back round again. Big thank you for Chris for being a member for 11 months. Thank you for your continued support. That is fantastic. So I'm going to end that poll. So most of you think that fully merging with Hulu was the best way to go. More originals kind of coming in at 20. I think the trouble is I don't think they like spending money on originals. I think they're going to do. I think Disney realizes it's Hulu and Sport and ESPN are where they can jump up Disney Plus. That's where they were missing stuff in the holes in their library. Right. Any last minute questions before we close off for the week? I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss any questions on the live chats. No, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that one is everyone. Here we go. Barbara Tron says, do you think Warner Bros. Made a mistake making Max, and who will be the next CEO of Warner Bros.? I don't know about who will be the CEO, but I don't think they necessarily made a mistake, but I think they're going to have a streaming service, but I think they've got a very different opinion of how they do it. It's like a libraries thing. Right. On that note, guys, thank you very much for everyone for joining in. Big thank you again to Derek. Thank you so much for that super chat. That was fantastic so much. And a big thank you again to Sosuna, Baba Trolling, Babak, Chris. We've also had Ryan in here, Mahmoud, Ricardo. Again, thank you so much. And Noxwave. And I shall see you guys next Sunday, and hopefully have a fantastic Father's Day. And on that note, guys, thank you very much, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.